Hi everyone. So you probably do some of these sentence constructions naturally without thinking about them. And my idea here is that there's probably a couple of them that you don't do, and you should focus on that. So if you're like, oh yeah, I do that already, versus I've never heard of that before. Just practice the ones that feel very foreign to you, because those are the ones that I'd like you to introduce into your writing. So we have here, we'll start with the very, very most basic, just to define our terms, because you may or may not have heard of these things. So past and present participles. So every verb has one. So we'll start out here. To nip, or to smoke, or to drink. That's the infinitive form. And we'll talk about how to use that later in a different lecture. Nipping, or drinking, or smoking, or napping, all those ing words that I'll refer to as the present participle, or the present participial form. That's another phrase I could use. And we're going to use this form today. Then the second one is past participle form, nipped, or slept, or drank, or cheated, or robbed. And depending on the sentence, you're going to use either the present or the past participle. So let's see a couple examples. Let's start with present. Of the two, it's probably the one that you're most familiar with, if I had to guess. So, without using this sentence construction, you'll form the following sentence. The dog barked at the postman and nipped at his heels. And what you're going to do is you have the dog doing two things. You have it barking and nipping, and you connect them. I'm going to circle this conjunction here, and. So you have the dog doing two things, and you use and to connect them. Unfortunately, and is way overused. This is a compound verb. Everyone and their brother knows how to do this sentence construction, and you're not going to stand out if you do this in your paper. It looks pretty like basic, is how it comes across. So what's a slightly more sophisticated or fancy way that you could do this sentence construction? You keep the first part the same. The dog barked at the postman. And then what happens there after postman is key. Notice the comma. Instead of the conjunction, you have a comma. You take out the conjunction, you get rid of it, and you change the second verb to a present participle. So before it was barked and nipped, and now it's barked, nipping. So the dog barked at the postman, comma, nipping at his heels. Much more sophisticated and much more uncommon. If I were to circle all of the present participial phrases or clauses that you guys use, there'll be very, very few at this point. So I want you to try to introduce them into your writing. Now, you don't have to do it, you don't have to put the present participial thing at the end. You can actually put it at the beginning. And I'd like you to, once you get it down, like, Bryan, I know how to use this, then put it at the beginning, sometimes put it in the middle, sometimes put it at the end. Where you put it also is a sign of sophistication. So in this second sentence, we start off nipping at the postman's heels. We start out with the present participial phrase. That's excellent, especially if you've done one where you've ended it in the previous sentence, you have a present participial phrase at the end. And usually I find that students gravitate, like they know how to do one, but they don't do the other. So just try to be flexible. And then this Third one I don't like as much because you're not supposed to separate out your subject and verb very often, and this construction does. So just use this one a little sparingly. So we have the subject, dog. I'll put a big S over that. And then you have the main verb, which in this case, I'll put a V underneath that, barked. And you interrupt the subject from the verb, which you shouldn't do very often, with the present participial phrase, nipping at the postman's heels. And notice in this case that there's a comma to mark the beginning and also to mark the end of that participial phrase. The dog, comma, nipping at the postman's heels, comma, also barked at him fiercely. Okay, so try all three, keeping in mind what I said about the third one. Now, I don't know why, but I find that if I have a room of people that the majority of them grasp the present participial one faster than the past participle. But I'd like you to practice both. So let's start out with the basic sentence. The dog barked at the postman and was concerned with the guy invading her home. So it's a girl dog. She's being a little territorial. Okay, so how can I change this? That one doesn't sound too good to me, so maybe the revision will sound better. So the dog barked at the postman. It's just like how we did the present participle. I keep this the same as the sentence above, and then I take out, I'm going to cross off the conjunction, add the comma. The dog barked at the postman, comma, concerned that he was invading her home. I think that sounds much better. So you have barked and concerned, and you avoid the conjunction because it's overused by PCC students, and you replace it with a comma. And just like the last one, you can move the concern that he was invading your home around, depending on what you think sounds best. So in this second one, concerned that the postman was invading her home, comma, the dog barked at the intruder. I think that sounds good too. So I think putting it at the end sounds good, putting it at the beginning sounds good. And the only thing you need to do, and I have to say that a couple of you tend to forget this, is at the end of the past participial phrase, you need to mark it. The comma is the marker. Like it's ending and now we're going to the main part of our sentence. So I've underlined, just so you'll remember, the comma here. This is the main part, the dog barked. And we need to know, it's sort of like a traffic sign, like intersection ahead, curve ahead. It's a little warning, things are changing. Okay. This is the one I don't like as much, putting in the middle, the dog concerned the postman was invading her home, barked fiercely at him. I added a adverb in this one. So practice. Remember I said at the beginning, practice the one that feels like, oh, I never do that. I didn't even know you could do that one. Now, whenever I ask people to do a sentence with a present participial phrase or clause, there's always three people. Actually, it's not always three, but there's always a few people who give me a sentence with a gerund instead, and then I pull out my hair and I'm like, that's not what I asked for. So I need to go over briefly what is a gerund and how is it different than a present participle. So here's the first sentence. Eating too much before intense exercise can cause a stomach ache. Now, a couple of you are like, that sounds like a present participle. It has that ing at the end. Be very, very, very careful here. This is actually a gerund. So I'm going to put a little rectangle around eating. How do you know it's a gerund? One big way is this verb here, can cause. Smoking can cause cancer. Drinking too much can cause an accident. Smoking and drinking are both gerunds in this case. So the structure is gerund, verb. You can take out all the extra stuff. Like you can take out too much before intense exercise. Eating can cause a stomach ache before swimming or during swimming. So remember, let's go up and you can see the difference. So up here, with the present participle, nipping at the postman's heels. Then after that, you get the subject. You don't get a verb, you get the subject. Look here, the dog. So nipping at the postman's heels, comma, the dog. You don't get the verb. Nipping at the postman's heels can be fun. If I had written that, nipping would be a gerund. Nipping at the postman's heels can be fun. So for whatever reason, I think the gerund one is easier for you, for whatever reason. So I say, do a sentence with a present participial phrase, and you lean towards the gerund, and I say, you already knew how to do that one. That's why you're doing it. So try not to do the gerund. I'll tell you if you do. Here's a different version. Eating before, so I just done the gerund. Eating too much can cause a stomach ache. And now here is eating at the beginning, but as a present participle. Eating before she left for work, comma, the comma is the clue, Dolores. I'm going to put an S over Dolores. Notice it's not a verb, it's the subject. Eating before she left for work, comma, the subject. Therefore, you know you're in present participial land. Okie dokie. So I have 3 sentences here. I'm going to read them very quickly. You in your head decide gerund, present participle. Knowing when to say no to friends when they want you to socialize is a sign of maturity. What do you think? Take out that scrap piece of paper, gerund or present participle. Is knowing present participle or gerund? Knowing when to say no to friends when they want you to socialize is a sign of maturity. Number 2, knowing his friends wanted him to socialize, Boris did not text his friends back while he was studying. Boris is very smart. So is knowing in this case a present participle or a gerund? And then finally, I'm now doing it at the end. Brent picked up his cell phone knowing his friends wanted him to socialize. So is knowing in this case a present participle or a gerund? So what do you think, guys? How many gerunds do we have? 1, 2. Commit. What's your answer? Well, I will tell you that the only gerund is the first one. Knowing is. Knowing is it's a noun in this case. Knowing is a sign of maturity. All that extra stuff you can take out. Knowing, noun, verb, is a sign of maturity. Therefore, you know you have a gerund. And I'm not interested in you doing that. You knew how to do that when you walked into the course, probably. Somehow that's something you know how to do already. These other 2, present participles. Okay, hopefully I didn't give you a headache. And practice, 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 practice. It's the only way you're going to learn it, is just in your papers. Try, oh, he wants me to do one of these. Just try it. I'll reward, every time you do it, I'll recognize it and reward you, I promise. Okay, good luck.